And is Matt on with us?
Yeah.
Yep, Matt is on just a different tab right here.
Perfect. Okay. It is 6 o'clock, so I will call the meeting to order. Could we please stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alicia, will you go ahead and do a roll call, please?
Yes. Sherry Link. Here. Ian McDonald.
Here.
Matt Buchholz.
Here.
Lacey Oster.
Here?
Bruce Blargen.
Here.
Lori Blargen. Here. Marge Below.
Here. Thank you. Our district mission: together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities, as well as listed our core values and protocol reminders. I will take a motion to approve the agenda with one add-on of employee council underneath the superintendent's report, reports E. Is there a motion to approve? But it wasn't on the one that was initially posted on Friday.
I will second that motion.
Or will you make a first?
I will make a first to add the employee council
I will
to
second.
3E.
Thank you.
No, Sherry seconds. Awesome.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you. Just. Okay, I did have one.
Do you want us to vote on
Oh, sorry. All in favor?
it?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I had one for open forums, so, oh, sorry.
Huh? Oh, sure. Want me to time it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hello.
Hi Melanie, this is Lacey Oster from the board meeting, and I'm just calling for public comment, and you are on speakerphone.
All right, wonderful.
Could you please state your name and address for the record?
I can, yes.
Thank you.
My name is Melanie Richard, and my address is 2103 80th Street in Somerset. So I just wanted to call in and just kind of give gratitude or highlight some teachers that have been very important to Freddie, our soon-to-be graduate from Somerset High School. And I know this probably could have been an email, but emails are boring, and I just thought that the best way to do this would be to at least let you guys know who we have felt over the years have been really great and impactful in his life and in his education at Somerset. So Freddie started out in Somerset in 3rd grade after we moved back from Texas. And so throughout the years that he's been at Somerset School District, he has had a very positive, great experience, and thankfully school came very easy to him. So I just would want to encourage other parents too, if they feel the same way about certain teachers, to let the board know, and just so that you guys are aware of who's really special to these kids, and to try to make them feel the gratitude too that the parents have for them. So, you know, as a parent, we have this opportunity at dinner time to talk about their day and which teachers have really impacted them. And so I have a list of teachers who have been very exemplary in providing the best education that Freddie has had at Somerset School District. So the first one I would like to thank and kind of highlight, and just I'm going to give you a whole list of them. But Mr. Barta, Mr. Damian Barta, Diane Slimak, Jessica Olson, Amy Stevens, Eric Cassell, Jennifer Whalen, Cody Whalen, Debbie Stevens, Jane Driscoll, Brandon Berry, Will Rossmiller, and then Sarah Calling, the guidance counselor. And then the last two that I have had the opportunity to see their work through art and music, these two have been such great role models and influences to Freddie throughout the years. Becky Olson, Freddie and her have talked plants, chickens, turkeys, logos for Freddie's plant business. We've actually even gotten chickens and turkeys from her. She is a very special person and somebody who Freddie sees as like family, because she has made him feel so great in school and just helped to round him out as a person. And then, of course, last but not least, Jamie Talbicki. I have seen the love she has for her teaching and for her students. She is so good at what she does. For those of you who haven't or didn't get a chance to see Newsies the musical, you really missed out on a really great performance. It was an absolute treat, and I wish I could see it again. Dynamics has really brought out confidence in Freddie. We didn't know he had such a deep voice until he had a solo this past weekend during their showcase.
10 seconds.
Okay, and so Jamie Talbicki, just in the future, I know you guys will be talking about referendums and things like that. An auditorium for her would be amazing so that she can continue to work on her craft and to continue to grow the music department as well as the musicals. So thank you to all of them for being such great role models and providing the best education to Freddie throughout these years. He has really grown a lot academically, and it has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Melanie. Thanks for your call.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, under reports, A, the first is the listening session summary. So for the listening session, was it Sheree and Marge that were here to start?
And Ian.
And Ian, awesome.
So we had somebody come in talking about the referendum and just how it would be communicated, what we could be doing with getting the information out to the public, making sure people know what it is, the importance of it. So great questions, and we've had a few ideas moving forward, and Mark added a few ideas as well. What did I miss?
I think that was it.
She just hopes the next superintendent will carry on with achievement and referendum.
Thank you. On to the superintendent's report.
I think we'll go with Leah first, so.
Okay.
And Leah's gonna talk a little bit about the employee council that we resurrected this year, kind of under a new format with total leadership being basically in the rank and file rather than in our office. So I think Jody is spearheading, because most of the questions that come up typically have to do with handbook and HR things, so Jody took it on as the lead person, and then we've got representation from every building, and
Yeah.
it's all yours, Leah.
I'm Leah Fireisen. I am one of two junior kindergarten teachers. I teach in this building. And towards, I don't know, an email went out mid-year, and I thought, you know what, it's my first year here. And if you've been in other buildings or you've been at other jobs, maybe you have ideas that you could bring to people. It's been a lot of things like, can we get healthier staff lunches? It's more like a building leadership team, but for the whole campus. And I have found, I made 2 connections already where I saw these people on our mentor training the other day and made note. We talked about different ways that she could try to block the windows, or, you know, like make a shade for the windows that wouldn't cost the district any money. And I think we all have just different ideas that could help solve things. And I also think that it never hurts to try to make a community out of all the buildings. You know, we're junior kindergarten, but part of the elementary school, but we do our umbrella parade over to the middle school, and so we're trying in every way to make people feel included and their voices heard. Like I said, maybe one building has an issue going on that another building thought of the answer. So I think there's teachers on there's admin. Most of the tickets have gone to Brian, the maintenance guy. But just little building things like that, just things that people are wondering. I'm a big proponent for, if you're gonna talk about something, you should want to go out and do something about it. And I hear it a lot around here, but they say the answer's in the room. So somebody brings something up, there's been a lot of good dialogue, I feel like, for answers. And I've actually, like I said, had follow-up. Somebody said, I really thought about what you said, and I think you could do this. And so for me, as a first-year person here, I feel like I've made some really good connections. And I hope that the people in my building would bring to me some issues, and I could bring them and get a respectful answer and solutions.
Any questions of Leah?
So do you guys meet monthly?
Yeah, so I just joined. I just joined in like April and May, and I think we're gonna do one more after this. But yes, it's monthly, the first Tuesday or something of every month. Mhm. Yeah. Thank you.
Great group.
No, I don't
Thank
think
you,
so.
Leah.
How'd I do?
Someone from the group will periodically come in and give updates and reports to the board.
Great.
All right.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah. This way. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Gives you an opportunity to meet different people.
Yeah, that's great.
Love that.
Okay, I just have two quick pieces here. I sent a note out on the weekend update just about commencement. I do need to know who's gonna be there and how many guests, so we can set up chairs on the side. And anyone who wants to, you know, the way it's set up, we have the stage and we got Matt and Lacey up there, and then we have Shannon down on the side that graduates take pictures with. And then to the outside of Shannon, if any board members wanna come and greet graduates at that point, more than welcome to. You know, and you don't have to decide right now. I just need to know by Friday, you know, how many guests or, you know, so we can set up chairs for you. And don't feel pressured, you don't have to be there if you don't want to, but we'll introduce everyone as if you were there. The next thing I want to do is give an update on the superintendent search. And really the reason for this is to, you know, we want to engage the community and encourage them to come out to these sessions that, to meet the candidates. The board had 19 applicants for the position and interviewed 7 candidates. They're down to their final 3. It's Shannon Donnelly from Somerset, Josh Robinson from Frederick, and Michael Ballard from Hudson. Now, each one of these people will be spending a day in the district next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And they'll be going through different interview sessions all day long. And from 5:45 to 6:45 is for community members, and we want to make sure we get that out and encourage people to come and meet these candidates. And there's no set format or questions, it's just kind of a meet and greet where the person will introduce themselves, and then you have an opportunity to answer questions. Very casual, it's here at the district office, so in the back room here at the district office. We'll have signage up for that. And again, for our staff that's listening, you know, support staff is from 3:30 to 4:30 up here at the Learning Center, and certified staff is 4:30 to 5:30. So they're gonna have a full day. And then in the evening, they have dinner with the board, and then they'll, in their final interview with the board after that. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Anything anyone wants to add?
Do we know who's on which day yet?
Yeah, Shannon's on Monday, Josh is on Tuesday, and Michael Ballard's on Wednesday.
Okay.
And then I
We have
believe.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, isn't it?
No.
Oh, Monday,
Monday,
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday,
You
Wednesday.
get me here Friday night.
And then
So who's Tuesday?
Josh
Josh.
Robinson from
Okay.
Frederick. In fact, you can send this up to them.
Mhm,
can't
I'll
you?
do-
Yeah.
I'll send
So
an updated one.
It's got it on here, so we'll send you this updated sheet of when all the meetings and interviews are for that. So again, we really want to encourage the community to come in and, you know, basically show support and ask good questions of these people. You know, it's a key piece of the leadership of the district for the future. Last thing I have is just the enrollment report on here. And, you know, we're up about 4 students from last month, but we're down a few students from last year at this time. I took a drive around, board meeting days, I always drive around town and count basements. And there's a lot of basements going in, you know, which means, you know, there's gonna be a lot of action here in the next, I would say, year or two as far as kids coming in. I think I counted about 30 basements that are being built on right now. So odds are there's gotta be some kids coming in from there. So, you know, again, I think the future looks good. It's just gonna take a while to see them. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions of Mark or any other questions or discussion for reports? Okay, moving on to advanced operations. The first order to discuss or possible action is the referendum recommendation. We had our committee here to share during our work session and talked about the work that that group did. I think now it's time for us to discuss and where we want to go forward. The next step that we would take would be the community survey to get some feedback for a possible referendum. Any discussion in that topic area?
So is that bringing school perceptions in to help us formulate some of the questions? Mark?
Correct, so what, on a survey like this here, you know, I'd work with Joe, wait, help me.
Dan.
Rob, sorry. Work with Rob on formulating, you know, a draft of it, and then we'd bring it back. And, you know, on this type of survey, we need everyone's input here at the table to say, is this, what, are we really getting the message across, and is this what we want to know? Because from this, you guys are gonna have to make the decisions off, so you need input into this, but I'll do a bunch of the work with Rob ahead of time, so we get it pretty well refined, and then you guys get to see what you see in it, and,
Would he come in here and talk with us before it went out?
typically they don't come in, I mean, we could have them virtually.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
You know, but I think the big thing is, you know, through this survey is really educating the public, and we talked about this at the listening session here too, but getting some information out ahead of that to the community to say, you're going to be getting a survey, and here's what it's about. And so just prepping them for that survey piece, because we can't say who to survey, you know, they pick the demographic, and they have a formula for that, who gets surveys and what have you, so.
What's the best way then with school perceptions that they've done in the past? I mean, a lot of times our surveys go out to parents via email, but for hitting all those community people, as far as making sure that all of those voices are
That's what I wanted to bring him in, or
taken in.
talk to us, so we get that feedback.
You know, I believe this is a combination of mail
Okay.
also, and I think that was the biggest expense we had with the last survey, was the
Because
mailing.
it gets sent out with a
Yeah,
link or different
yeah.
things. Okay.
And I can get all those particulars and that, you know, again, depending what you wanna do. We'll, you know, this survey, you guys have to be involved with,
Mhm.
just because of what we're asking and what we wanna ask, and make sure that, because you're the ones that have to make the decisions based off of it.
Well, in time-wise, looking at a timeline to make this even doable in November, we should start that survey sooner than later.
Yeah, we're getting tight now. We're getting tight now.
To make sure then we can go get the survey, then get our information on where we want to move forward or if to move forward.
I'm in support of hiring school perceptions for this. I don't know if you want to make a motion tonight, or we want to have more discussion on it, but
Go ahead and make a
I'll make a motion to contract with school perceptions to set up a survey for the referendum, for the possible referendum.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go forward with
Okay, we'll
the
get
school
on that
perception
tomorrow.
survey.
And you reach out to him? Mark?
Yeah, yeah, I've already talked to him, and told him that I'll get a hold of you tomorrow and let you know where we're at.
Great.
Great, thank you.
Okay, moving on, the referendum additional projects from carryover from the 2019 referendum, and some more discussion with some of the items that you mentioned. Mark, do you want to go?
Yeah, let
over
me just
those?
give you an update from our last meeting here. You know, so roughly we're dealing with 3.25, 350,000, somewhere in there. And I've laid out a couple times just some of the things that are at their end of their life cycle. And some, you know, if they do go down, it's gonna be kind of embarrassing if they do go down. And, you know, there was a mention about some HVAC over at the elementary, and I haven't, no one's gotten back to me with prices, but I posed the question to Pam today that, you know, we've got the two playgrounds over there are in tough shape. I said, we've got enough money in this possibly to do one of those. Would your choice be chipping away at some of the HVAC or the playground? And it wasn't even a hesitation, said we need the playgrounds fixed. So that's her take on it.
Have we heard from, where's he, Tom? Tim, sorry.
Tim.
Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, right.
What is his feedback?
Well, so he was one of them that was supposed to get back to me with costs on some of these different pieces. And, you know, there's, what's happening over there is that there's, I can't remember the terminology and the systems and that, but, you know, we're getting some leaking in some valves and different things that are aging out. And, you know, they need to be addressed, but it's more than, you know, you could do a fraction of that with this money, but not make a huge impact on it. And I guess I'm looking at impact across the district in all 3 buildings or areas, excuse me, 2 of the areas. You know, we could definitely chip away, but again, I talked to Mark Johnson, talked to Wold and Tim about getting prices, and I haven't gotten a price back yet as far as where are we sitting and what are the specific pieces of that. But from what I'm gathering is, you know, they want to take a look at diving into the mechanicals like they did at the high school and the middle school. And that's where, during our process, they came up with that, what was it, $5-6 million?
Yeah.
I think it was.
That's something that would address what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, we could throw some money at it, but, you know, I look at the condition that the high school and the middle school was in for years and years. This can wait for a referendum to happen. And again, you know, I want to make sure I talk to Pam today to say, you know, when it comes up, what's your priority? If you think it's that bad, there wasn't even hesitation that there's another need right now for this money. So, so you got one of the elementary playgrounds we can do. Again, the outside scoreboard is at the football fields on its last leg, and that can be prepped for future use. You know, additionally, the high school gym is the PA system. I'm sorry I didn't put the PA on there because that's another thing that's on its last leg also. I look at the playground, the scoreboard, and the PA as kind of things that are going to time out and we're going to have some problems with. The other piece is the boardroom or the electronic sign out front. I mean, those are, like to have them, but I think the top 3 are priorities as far as you know, just making sure we don't have problems on the road here. And none of these are time sensitive, but you know, if we want to go through with them, I'd love to get them going, so that's just one less thing on the next person's plate. If we can clean up as much stuff as we can next month or so.
So that money doesn't need to be spent by a certain time?
No. Well, there's no timeline on that, yeah. So we're good. But it has to fall under the,
Right.
you know.
Just wondering to wait.
We can't buy band uniforms.
Until we can get some of those costs on some of the other pieces. But really, the elementary school playground, the HVAC system, the outside scoreboard, those items were all falling under maintenance if we went forward with a referendum in that piece.
Yep, yep.
I'll make a motion that we table this until we have further information from, you contacted 3 people that you're waiting to get answers from about the HVAC. So I make a motion that we table this until we have further information about that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1.
He was probably just late.
Was he aye or was he delayed?
No, I oppose tabling it. I'd like to move forward with it, so that's all
Okay.
it was.
So motion carries 6-1.
So I can make the motion to, before I guess we vote, we could wait, have a little, ask for discussion, because then Matt could maybe
Okay.
give him some of that information or why he wants to. I know, I'm just
Sorry,
saying
you're
for,
saying what I should've.
for moving forward, that we ask for any discussion on it, so that we can, so if Matt did have, obviously he had something he wanted to bring up.
Well, and we can put this even on our next working session if
I would
it
think
doesn't
we
need
would
to
have
be
that
on
before.
an actual special. We can get
I thought I'd
information.
have those numbers today, but
Okay. So we'll bring it up the next time. Awesome, moving on, the finance overview and quarter 3 budget to actual.
Yeah. Thank you for the time. We initially planned to have this at the start of the work session this month. I know there's a lot going on.
Is it not working?
Board agendas. Just try it again.
Are you guys,
Try pressing that button too.
Try it again.
So,
okay, if anyone starts sweating, I'm not taking the fall on this one.
I'll forward you the email.
It's all right,
you want to sit here?
Yeah, I can say.
Okay.
We'll make it work.
For the rest of the night, no.
Take good notes.
Right. So, again, thank you. I wanted to touch base on our somewhat updated process presentation and then jump into our quarterly report through March, which is quarter 3. Something we typically do for the last 3 quarters of the year. And so we are preparing for, there's a lot going on. Usually in June, we also have our preliminary budget approval for the upcoming year. It's a step in the process. It doesn't, it's not the binding budget that we end up with. We approve it again in September at the annual meeting and budget hearing, and we approve it the final time for adoption in late October. So there's going to be many versions of this budget. We'll have a lot of information to keep building into it and making our adjustments as we go. So jumping in, and if you can,
This one.
wrong one.
I'll take this one. Yeah.
All right, good. So if you want to follow along online, you just go to the district Business Services Department. And we'll jump into the process presentation first. Yep. And if you're following along, you can see it as we go. So I'll go along with this format. So this is a big higher level overview. What do we talk about? Why is it important? What are some of the things you see on a monthly basis? What are some of the things that come up periodically? What's the board level involvement as we go? One of the big things you notice and you see on a monthly basis and periodic basis are reports of expenditures and revenues, keeping track of what is spent and what it's for, and what the revenue's coming in, what level they're at and what they're for. And you can see this is a screenshot. I updated many of the later screenshots with current info, but some of these early ones, they're very representative of what you see monthly or quarterly, so I didn't mess with them because it's kind of a fiddly process to do that. Nothing has changed as far as what it looks like. That is a revenue code. I have it green, boxed in green and underlined in green so that you can follow along as we go as a refresher. Here's some expenditure codes. These are all governed by DPI to make sure things are uniform across the state. Every district kind of has the same types of expenditures for the same purposes, same types of revenues and so forth from the same sources. So the function, the bigger 6-digit code, that's red, the object, the blue codes there. Here are a couple of examples of where you see these on a monthly basis. The check register and the ACH monthly receipts. And the codes, again, tell you what and where, what are we spending money on. It's a way to continue and recognize this kind of trend over time, and then we take those individual codes from individual checks even that you see on a monthly basis, and we make summary reports out of them. And so here's a couple examples of the summary reports you get on a monthly basis, some of them combining different codes, different what and where expenditure places, and then the individual reports on the side there to the right. And here's the revenue version of the same. And then on a quarterly basis, we see a lot of the same thing, even in the same format. We'll look at that in a minute for quarter 3. Again, the functions, you can see this is in the quarterly report through a quarter. The same format there on the left, what you see on a monthly basis. The same format on the monthly basis for the object, and then the revenue as well, with additional discussion, obviously, than you see in the monthly basis. At the budget hearing, you also see this. On the left is the publication. There's a lot, or rather the meeting format. On the right is the publication format. So there's a lot more detail in the meeting format, but it all summarizes the same. Again, it's taking all the details and kind of summarizing them. You see these codes over and over again. You come to recognize this is what we're spending money on. This is where our resources are going. This is where revenues are coming from. And many times, many reports, year over year, quarter over quarter, it looks very similar. This year's a little different because of our much bigger federal revenue, the ESSER revenue, but generally speaking, these things look very similar over time, and that's usually a good thing. That means we're being consistent. Another report you see on the monthly basis is the cash flow chart. This is all funds, general fund and every other fund, all cash. So you can see here's the district accounts, here's the balance at this point in time at the end of the month. Sometimes you will see, I guess, pointer here, but this happens to be December of 2020, and again, December 2021, we did the same thing. We borrowed on our line of credit during the month for cash flow purposes to make payroll, because that is, November, December is one of our really low points for cash flow purposes. And so this shows you kind of the main transactions that happen on a monthly basis and where we're at the end of the month on a cash basis. This document is the budget planning calendar split in half. It's one of the documents we see as part of the budget hearing as well. And it just gives highlights of what's happening and what's planned to be happening year over year. And if you read some of the budget documents on the website, you see, and if you obviously have been here, you know that budget planning, years overlap, and that it's a mini month process, planning and implementing, and then monitoring, and you keep it going one year over the next, and they overlap. So again, for the school board, major expenditures for discussion at an administrative level in the district and before the board. Personnel is the biggest one. For us here, contracted services is very big, bigger than some other regional districts because we contract out transportation, food service, custodial, and then physical plant, the buildings, the maintenance related to them. We talk about fixed costs versus discretionary, especially in the budget presentations. I try to get them to emphasize that. Do I have discretionary ability to determine year over year how those funds are allocated or not, and to what degree? Oftentimes there's not a lot of discretionary ability. Major revenues, again, for discussion at admin and before the board. For us, it's the revenue limit, which contains the state aid and the local levy. That's our main source of revenue. That's how we determine in a given year what we can have for our major source of revenue. There's state categorical aids and open enrollment as well. And this year, like I said, federal revenue, much bigger this year, and to a degree next year as well, than in a normal year. This is a screenshot of this current year's revenue limit worksheet, and I know it's a lot and it's dense. I just included to illustrate. On the left there, that orange box is highlighting and circling our 3-year student membership count. It's an average of our last 3 years. And that is our big number. That's the main number for us for calculating our revenue for revenue limit purposes, which again is our biggest area of revenue for general operations. And then you can see the upper right, revenue per FTE. That's taking last year's revenue limit base calculation and subtracting out any exemptions where we maybe have a declining enrollment exemption, which is you get to maintain revenue for 1 year longer than you should, even though you're declining and your calculation says you should be receiving less revenue. So anyway, they take that out, they say, here's your revenue per student for last year. Then the red box right now is circling how much the legislature has given to districts to increase on a per member basis for the new year. And for this year and next year, it's zero. It's zero per member. That gives you the new revenue limit, revenue per FTE, which again is the same as previously because there's no increase for this year. And so then we multiply that by our new count. And so I know it's hard to see up here. Hopefully you can see it if you're looking on your screen, but as we're slightly declining, our count is a little lower. And so as we slightly decline, we have these things that built in that help us kind of maintain revenue and smooth it over time if you're declining, but nonetheless it still decreases. And so these are just some important factors to keep in mind for us. Our FTE, our student count is vital, especially if there's no action at the state level to increase on a per student basis. Well, what's happening here locally and how are we thinking about that going forward?
Dave, before you go on to the next one, as you were explaining, as our enrollment declines, it's averaged over 3 years, so we're not hit so hard all at once. But as we go up, it's also averaged over 3 years, so we don't get as much money right away either.
Right. Yep, it's a smoothing effect. So your student count may go up or down, a little jagged, and this makes it more smooth up and down as far as your revenue.
So if we have a big increase like we did several years ago, where we increased 100 students in one summer, we don't get the revenue increase right away, and it can be very difficult as well.
Right, I mean, it's a third applied to that. We'll also taking into account there's a little bit of summer school, 40% of that FTE count also is added in. It's a smoothing both ways, yeah.
Right.
If you're a district like New Richmond that continues to grow, you see the same thing, but in the opposite way. So here I wanted to just give a couple graphical representations of some of the things I just ran over. Just again, not trying to get into the weeds too much, but just trying to emphasize the things that are important for us. On the left there that is our 3-year average since 2006-07, and it's just gently declining. The count on the left, the student count, the FTE number is truncated. That doesn't go down to 0. Obviously, if it went down to 0, it would look much flatter. I wanted you to be able to see that it is just slightly declining, which, if we're not getting new funding on a per member basis, that's hard. That's hard to maintain. On the right, revenue per member increase, and then total revenue. And so the per member one are the blue bars, and the big negative blue bar was Act 10. But since then, there has just been a little bit of per member increase, and then a couple years where there wasn't any increase. In 1920 and 2021, you can see there is around $200 per member increase, and a big jump. That big jump wasn't necessarily because of that per member increase. That was the first year of our operating referendum being applied through our levy. So that's really the reason that we jumped up there. And then this year, obviously, it's 0 again. The other major revenues that are not within the revenue limit, per pupil aid is a categorical aid. That's something that had been growing pretty steadily over the years. We're up a little over $1 million. But again, now it's not, the blue bars indicate how much it increases per member in a given year. Right now we're flat, but our overall total dollar amount is just slightly decreasing, similar to it's tied to our 3-year membership average. And then open enrollment. That dollar amount per member increase has been going up. Our open enrollment revenue has been going up, but the important thing for us is that our open enrollment out has also been going up. And so this is open enrollment in, this is the revenue we accumulate from the students coming here. But going out has been increasing and increasing, and now finally this year we're slightly negative for the first time in a long time. And as I mentioned, not normally one of the other major revenues, but this year federal revenue is a major revenue. It's on par with both of these. So our internal review, again, this is school finance in Somerset, monthly basis. We get these reports with the board agendas, quarterly basis, 3 times. We have these department and building reports, where that's the building and department opportunity to come before you and say, we have plans, we want to try to increase our allocation to do this or to do that, or we think we can work within what we have, or if needed, we'll be able to decrease. Here's what we're thinking. Here's a review where we're at. It's just an opportunity to get before you and get that started early on so that you are aware of what's going on a smaller basis than just here district-wide. Projects and as needed. Those are for, a lot of times there's exceptional things coming up, maybe some HVAC planning or something is breaking or what have you. External. Our biggest review is the annual financial audit. This is dictated and stipulated by DPI, Department of Public Instruction. They give out guidance to auditors that go to every district in the state. Every year they give guidance for specific things to look at, but overall in general, they're just verifying that we're following our own procedures and processes, that we are maintaining controls, and that we are doing things in a timely manner. Now you can see we have a timeline where they're on site usually at the end of July or early August, and it's completed in December. And so our last quarterly report, all of our year-end stuff, where our financial fiscal year ends at the end of June, then we are still wrapping up our year for another couple months generally while we're getting our audit complete. We'll have our last quarterly report at that point where we say the numbers are not yet final. They're not final until the audit is complete. And we'll have our budget hearing and annual meeting in September as well, before the completion of the audit. So this is all, a lot of things going on at once, but this is a big review from an external party. So why is it important? What are the takeaways? There's usually 2 documents. This year there was 3. Communication of results. That's an explanation, that's a summary and introduction, generally from the auditors to the school board, who's the ultimate oversight authority of the district, with general information, the management letter, and then there's the financial statements, which are all the normal statements, the normal transition from fund accounting to the normal stated values. I have, on an accrual basis, we are, through fund accounting, we're modified accrual. This year was the management communication, the financial statements, and then this year we have a 3rd document. It's called the single audit, or the report on federal and state awards. This is specifically because we got more than $750,000 in federal revenue grant money last year. So we'll have this again this year. We're getting way more than that this year, and we'll have it next year as well for sure. We haven't had this for a number of years, but if, for instance, food service revenue picks up, we may just have it going forward. Many districts do. It's $750,000 is generally a district our size. You're right around there. So this year, within this document is where you find the schedule of findings and question costs. All of this is to say, this is what I would say is the most important thing for you as a board member. It tells you what the findings are. What did they find? And this year, we had the same 2 findings as we have pretty much every year in every district our size has, which are related to the size of our staff. We don't have enough staff to properly distribute all tasks within the business office to fully control every single transaction. That's one finding. And then the other finding is we don't complete and create our own documents. So every district our size has that. Many districts bigger than us have those same 2 findings. But that is the important thing, and that is what I will always emphasize when I give these to you. Ian, you can take these if you'd like. Otherwise, there's financial statements on our website as well. And then here's a listing of all of the documents that I have screenshots or excerpts from, and obviously we found all this information on the Business Services website, where there is more information as well. So before we jump into the quarterly report, any questions on the overview? Okay. So again, we'll just go from the Business Services page to the financial reports where we have, okay. Again, information, different reports. There's the audit, the financial statements. Go to the budget to actual reports. And this year, right now we're looking at Q3 for this year. So again, this may be easiest if you follow along on your device. Q3 report, this is the second of 3 that we're going to go through for this year. All of these expenditures that you see are based on, we compare the current year to last year's actual amount. So the current year budget and the current year actual expenditure to the actual totals on a percentage basis, if we're doing percentage, last year at this same time. So it's not budget to budget, it's budget this year to our actual total last year, and then where are we at the end of March for each year. And so you can see 59% this year, 58.7 last year, so pretty close on par. Here's the by function summary breakdown. This is where the expenditures are made. This is something that should be familiar from the monthly reports. And this is summarized for the whole year through March. A couple notes about the major year-round areas of expenditure. Some things that are paid in advance, if it's insurances or what have you. And then some things that are paid at the very end. $430,000 purchase instructional services. You see 1.1 million, we're at 2% right now because all of that is a transaction at the end of the year in June, July, for open enrollment. Here's the 2 charts, the pie graphs. These are the pies that we talk about. Here's the budget. Here's where we're at Q3. They should be color-coded so you can match just by color, but they are. It's kind of a way to see, are we on path? Is there a timing issue that's having some effect where we expect here undifferentiated curriculum to be the second highest, but here it's business administration. This one is generally timing, where business administration has expenditure from July until now, whereas undifferentiated has most of its expenditure starting in September. So again, just one way to see by the end of the year, are we matching up where we thought we would be in our distribution of expenditure to where we ended up. Here are the functions at a higher summary level even, and that represented graphically. Expense ratio, again, another way to consider timing and overall relationship between the general summary functions of instruction, support, and non-program transactions. By object, this is what the district is purchasing. This also, that little chart there you see on a monthly basis. Oh, and I think I mentioned here, if you're looking at percentage-wise, you can see where we're at for compensation or what have you based on the fiscal year, the payroll year, and the school year percentages. And we'll circle back to that again at the end. Closer examination. These are selected things. This chart has grown over the years because maybe they either tend to have a big variance year over year. Something like snow removal can have a decent variance, even though it's a small dollar amount. In general, for that budget, it's a good illustration. It's a good example of how things can vary year over year, and we might not have much control over that variance. or because they're things that they might be here included in this chart because we have talked about them at previous board meetings. We want to continue to see how they function. So again, related to this set of expenditure areas, I have some notes down below. Gas, the price that we're paying is higher than anticipated. I checked again with Tim, and our usage should end up about on par with where we were last year, though then this year and last year were higher than prior years. Electricity is pretty close. Like I said, snow removal this year was high, last year was low. E&G seems to be right on par. IT, sometimes some years you may see a huge expenditure just immediately in the first quarter. There might be very little expenditure until the last. Right now they're having, I know, issues with supply chain, so they're trying to do some of their RFPs, if it's for Chromebook replacement or laptops or what have you. They're having a hard time timing it, and they're talking with vendors to make sure that they don't arrive after the fiscal year, but yet arrive before the end. Last year there was a problem where they had an order placed at least 6 months in advance, and they just kept getting pushed off, and it didn't come in time. So that can have an effect on the timing for IT especially. Some of the tuitions for some of the other special programs at college and the schools. Legal, this year again, our legal is, I would classify it as extremely high. Last year we ended, after this March 31st deadline, or cutoff I should say, and the end of the year, June 30, that amount more than doubled, and we ended up, I think it was 135,000 around there total. This year, I haven't seen much cost or invoice come in lately for legal. I don't know that we've used it a whole lot lately, so hopefully that'll tail off. Both of these numbers are very high in the budget. We knew it was going to be higher this year. Normally the budget allocation is less. Curriculum, again, this is another one that's there is variance in the timing, but generally Trish gets that number very close to the total that is allocated. The timing for some of these things have to do especially with the resources. If they're doing a curriculum adoption, they may be going through a whole process for the whole year and then try to make sure they get it at the end of the year. Or again, sometimes it's a matter of when can the vendor get these things here? Can we split it between years? That's something that is common as well, because sometimes the cost is so high that Trish wants to spend half of it from this year and half of it from next year so that she can use the remainder of her budget for other purposes. So again, a lot of these things are timing based. Transportation, it has ramped up more with extracurricular transportation this year than last year as things kind of get going again. Sub-wages, again, relatively low this year. Non-vested HRA, extremely low this year. So we'll see if that picks up again or not. And again, I just summarized a lot of those notes. And then this is a graph, a chart of the non-vested HRA, which is the district-funded portion of the employee health insurance deductible. And we are the pink line, pinkish purple at the bottom there. So last year was very low. This year is even lower. We'll see how that goes. Special Ed Fund 27, similar to last year. This is at a very summary level here and represented in that chart as well. And here's the expense ratio for the same. Revenues, this you see on a monthly basis. This chart to these summary revenue codes. You can see 57.6% has been received compared to 58 last year. So very close. March is one of the months where we catch up for cash flow purposes, where it's a big state aid month for receiving a big state aid payment, and also having just received tax revenue usually in February. Then here's some discussion of the cash flow timing. State aid, local property taxes, 80% of our operating revenues. This is on a per month basis on top, so you can see the red is the expenditure, it's kind of flat generally. And then revenues, sometimes there's a lot and sometimes there's none. And so on a cumulative basis, you can see we're not getting the same amount as we go, but then we've got a lot now based on those last few months of revenue receipts. So in summary, this year is another year that is more difficult than in prior years because of some of the oddities. Our allocations have been reduced somewhat related to COVID, but our revenue situation is very much dependent on utilizing some of those ESSER funds for operations. So there's been a lot of hoops to jump through to get to the point where we can use that. I think we're there. I think everything's approved and we're functioning, so we just have to continue to plan what to expect with the remainder of that. The budget seems to be generally on pace. We've seen some things that are over, a couple things that are under. Those are just illustrations. Every year there's things that are over and under. In general, you can see where we're at on a percentage basis. When you compare the percentage of the year that passed, the major year-round budget, business administration, or the school year budgets, regular curriculum and undifferentiated curriculum. On a percentage basis, we're looking like we're on track here. So we will obviously be looking at this again on a monthly basis. You have the reports tonight in your packet or in the linked agenda. But we will then do our quarterly report. The plan is in August while the audit is ongoing to kind of wrap up the year on an almost final basis at that point. So any questions on the quarterly report?
Because our utilization of the non-vested HRA has been so good this year and last year, is that going to help us with our health insurance premiums for next year?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but what we typically hear, what we've heard the last few years now, when we talk about this, is that we are doing really great compared to other districts, but not compared to what our premiums were. So if you remember a few years ago, we had a significant reduction in our premiums after going to RFP. And Health Partners essentially has been saying since then, you are priced too low and we're losing money. So yeah, this is what we've been hearing. This is what we're told, but yes, we look at our numbers and we say we're doing great. We have so much participation in our wellness program. Everybody's doing their activities. They're getting their percentage off their premium the following year. But nonetheless, we're hearing, well, you're still underpriced. Is that a good sum?
That's where Jay Connor's working to drop that.
And that underpriced goes back to which, when we went out to bid which year? Do you remember?
Oh, I'd have to look at the exact year. It was, I think it was 2 bids ago probably.
So.
Because we just did one.
2018, so we're talking like maybe 2018?
I'd have to double check the year.
Okay.
It was the one before the last one, I believe.
That's the circle I don't like, is we get underpriced and then they come back at us. They underprice us to get the bid, and then this happens. It's just, that's my own opinion.
But we've been underpriced for 2, 4, 6 years maybe. So I mean, that's got to be a little bit to our benefit. Even though it's
You would think
going
so.
up,
Yeah,
we at least were under
that's what doesn't make sense to us.
6 years.
That's, again, I think we've done everything we can internally to promote what we're doing.
We've done a lot, yeah. And I think even when that result came in, I think I remember asking, is this correct, Linda? And even through the first year, is this right? Yeah, I don't know. It makes it so there's not a lot of trust I guess in the process of how do they come up with the number that we're being told, if it can be off by so much for so many years. Because that's what they're saying. They're saying it's been off for this number of years. But that being said, we're doing what we can on our end to affect our employees' health, you know, and our premiums on our side. And we're investigating all the different areas we can look to try to bring costs down externally, whether it's through RFP or trying to do it self-funded or anything you can think of. We've had these kinds of discussions, but this is where we're at the moment.
Is part of it also because the price of healthcare has just gone up?
It's hard to say.
I think that was a piece of that, but in every district's a little different because of, you know, it's very subjective to your clientele and your claimants. And that's one of the prohibiting factors we have here of going self-funded is that it's a real gamble for us to do it at this point in time.
I remember a few months ago, we talked about perhaps joining the CISA consortium. Did we talk about that? I mean, I know there was some mention of it, that they have their own self-funded group. Do you remember talking about that?
I don't know, did we talk about?
I don't recall that, but.
In prior years we have, and there's
I know they have the
there's a-
option of taking us or not taking us.
right, I think there was, I don't remember talking about it this year. I know in prior years we've talked about it, and there was, there's always a selection bias concern. We're the ones that want to do that, or maybe the ones that need it the most, and so then increase the rates for others. But I'm not sure.
Is that something that we want to look at maybe, if we're going out to bid?
Well, I don't know if we're going out to bid.
Oh,
You have the current update.
No, I don't, I just talked to, I talked to Linda every couple of weeks and we're, she's trying to get that number down for us.
I think the recommendation that I remember from her the last time was, since we just went out, we probably shouldn't go out right away again, or we're gonna stop getting responses
oh.
the next time we wanna go out.
When was the last time we went? I thought it was a couple years ago. Or no, it was 2018 maybe.
No,
You
I
don't
think it was-
remember?
I think it was recently.
Oh, okay.
Was it last year?
Last
Yeah,
year.
because then we get them from, yeah, we had a couple.
It's a hard thing to do every year if you never move from health partners.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dave? Awesome, thank you, Dave. Okay, next area on the agenda is cultivating growth and leadership. So soon after our reorganization, we have to look at these three areas. One being our CISA board representative, one being our SMSF board representative, the Somerset Memorial Scholarship Fund, and then looking at our policy committee. There's one CISA board representative from our board, one of the Memorial Scholarship Fund representative, and then we currently have 3 on the policy committee. I think we'll start by just taking people who are interested in, and then moving forward, depending on how many are. I'd like to look at all 3 of them so we know that we can kind of have a variety of people in variety of positions, and then going forward to appoint. So, and Lori, maybe you can talk more about the CISA board representative. Is that a monthly meeting that our board representative goes, or quarterly?
No, it's monthly for sure, and plus, this last year, CISA, a lot of CISA is the Head Start program, and they go through a federal audit. So I and some other CISA board members were part of some extra meetings because of that.
Okay.
So it's at least once a month.
And are those virtually or in person?
Some of them have to be in person,
Okay.
and others you can choose.
And those take place in Turtle Lake?
Yes.
Okay. So for those of you who are. And then the Somerset.
Well, before we go on.
Yeah.
With CISA, there's an annual convention that's held June 6th.
Mhm.
There's 31 school districts that are part of CISA, and not every school board has a representative. There are clusters, and are we in cluster 5 or cluster 6?
Well, I know for our work with the PAC, we're cluster 3.
But our schools,
Yeah.
it's either cluster 5 or cluster 6. So there's several schools, but only one school represents the cluster. So Somerset has had a place on this board for many years. And the appointment goes to the school district, not necessarily to the person. I've been in that position for 2 years, and my term ends or Somerset's place on that board ends in 2023.
Okay.
And then you have the option of running for it again. And the other school districts in our cluster vote on which school maintains it.
Okay.
And we have till the 23rd to get that name in
Yes.
for them.
And then the other one, before we just take names, with the Somerset Memorial Scholarship Fund, that meets once a month as well, the first Wednesday of the month, usually from 5:30 to 6:30.
And there are other responsibilities as well. You need to be part of the scholarship fund earns a lot of its revenues through donations, but also they do all the ticket taking and sell 50/50 tickets at all of the home events. So it's football games, volleyball games, wrestling matches, basketball games. We've done 50/50 tickets at the plays, any event. So there's some other responsibilities in addition to going to the meeting. And whoever on the board is the representative, it is their responsibility to evaluate every scholarship application.
Okay. And then the last one is the policy committee, which currently we have 3 people from the board on that committee. So I guess I'll start. Is anybody interested in being the CISA board representative for our Somerset School Board?
I would consider it.
Anybody else? Okay, so if there's only one person interested, you got it, Sheree. So, how about for the Somerset Memorial Scholarship Fund? Is anybody interested in serving on the Memorial Scholarship Fund? Or continuing to serve?
I will continue to serve if no one else wants it.
Is that a one person usually, or can more than one person from our board do that?
One
It's usually
person has to be anybody can
Yeah,
join
okay.
the scholarship committee, but we have to have one board member
Designated.
designated.
Okay, Lori, and reach out. I know that one has a lot of other, I'd be happy to help with other events with that if needed. And then the policy committee, people interested on serving on our policy committee for the next year.
I am still happy to serve on it.
Matt, other people who are interested or would like to continue to be interested?
I will if no one else wants to.
I would consider it as well.
So we have 4 names, Matt, Lori, Ian, Sheree. Anybody else?
Oh, and you said you were interested?
Yeah.
Didn't hear that.
Can you only have 3 or could we have 4?
You don't want a quorum.
No,
We
you
would
want three.
need to have 3.
So if you 3 want to do it, go for it.
Are you okay with that, Lori? Not. I think that that's a good, I'm just looking at, we kind of have somebody in. So let's go forward with Matt, Ian, Cherie on the policy committee. The Somerset Memorial Scholarship Fund, Lori will serve, and then Cherie will go with the CISA board representative. Okay. Moving on, looking at consenting the agenda.
We don't have to make a motion to that or
Is-
anything, do we?
Need to approve,
Whether people on the CISA or,
no, we
It
don't.
wouldn't hurt to have a record.
It will be in our minutes, correct?
yeah,
Yeah, so it's in the minutes, so we can move forward. Consenting the agenda, is there a motion or any further discussion, I guess, with minutes, board bills, personnel, or the WIA renewal?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, 6A, 1, 2, 3, B, 1, C, 1 and 2, and D, 1.
Second?
All in favor?
Okay, so
Aye.
then we would say,
Any
Discussion
discussion
at that point.
on that point, on
once we make the motion.
that motion? Thank you. Okay, if no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So getting near the end of our agenda, general information, May 23rd through the 25th, kind of reiterating what Mark said, the final superintendent candidate interviews. I would urge anyone to attend those. And then June 13th will be our next work session. And then June 27th will be our next regular session board meeting. Anything else that anybody wants to add to that with the superintendent final candidate interviews?
So we have a listing session scheduled for June 27th, and we haven't had a lot of turnout for that. Is that something that we want to address and see if we want to continue, or what are our thoughts on that?
I would be good for continuing with it, just to make sure that, I know that a couple times ago, I know it's been low, but I think some people, I know they said, hey, keep giving us a chance. I feel like one of those things that keeps coming around is communication and being there to listen and hear people out.
Okay.
Or can we say a half hour before, so then if there isn't anybody here, we're not sitting for a whole entire hour?
Let's try that.
Mark, do you have something to?
Yeah, just, I agree with Cherie that I would keep it for the June meeting. Once you get your new superintendent on board, maybe that's something you guys want to
Yeah.
work out, some different format or, you know, what have you. I mean, there's things that you guys are gonna have to work together with to, maybe there's some better ideas out there.
Mhm.
So.
And the only one with that was that you said the 23rd is Shannon Donnelly, the 24th is Josh Robinson, and the 25th is Mike
It's
Ballard.
Michael Ballard, yep.
Okay.
So is the listening session in June going to be an hour or 30 minutes?
I would be good doing it a half hour before, if we're only getting, I mean, today there was one person, which I want to welcome, you know, I think that's good we had one, but if it's only a minimal amount,
I
say
would,
a half hour?
I would like to change it to a half hour, just, I mean, that's our time too. We're
Yeah.
giving up, so no one's gonna be here.
And currently, is anybody signed up for June?
I signed up for last night, just because there was no one signed up yet. I was making sure I wasn't signed up for tonight. So
Yeah.
I figured I better sign up for, since there was, I don't think there's anybody on it right now.
I
Okay.
can check my schedule.
Yeah, I can, because summer will be, I can, oh, yeah, that.
I'll check my schedule also, I may be able to be there.
Okay,
Yeah, if that's 5:30, that would be great, we can just update it on a regular session, or work session or something.
Okay, do we need to make a motion to change it?
I don't think so.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and change that, and Alicia, if you could change that on the listening for 5:30 instead of 5 o'clock. We'll keep the listening session, but just make it a half hour before. Okay, once around the table, Marge, you want to start us out?
I went to the art display at the library and it was fantastic, and did the jazz band and show choir on Saturday night, and that was great. Those kids put a lot of work into both.
Great, thank you. Lori?
And the Somerset Scholarship Committee will be awarding scholarships on Wednesday, the 18th.
Great. Bruce?
Just the one thing we were bringing up is community involvement, community questions, and I know that was the one that we didn't have anybody meet before, so I think too, just as we know, if people aren't comfortable coming to that meeting and asking, send some emails to any of the board members, I guess, and I would just hope that if any of us get them, or we get them as a group, that we can maybe ask them at that open time from 5:45, or even when we just do the closed session after, if it's something we think it's worth answering, because that was one of them too, we were talking last time about the questions we're asking, so I guess just if people aren't comfortable, which we know some people aren't, but they just send us those questions too, don't show up, try to give us something so that we have input from more than just the 7 of us here. So yeah, send them to me if you have questions. I mean, ask, and I don't have to tell you who it is, we'll just ask them. Yeah, I think that was it.
I will second what you said about, I've gotten today reach outs for the process and thoughts, and I think this is such an important decision that we're making in our whole district, so I just really encourage people to give that feedback and to come, including those staff sessions and support staff, administration, and community, because this is a serious decision, an important one, and we're all taking it really seriously as well. So, and the other thing is, congrats, it's the end of the school year. So our graduates, and next weekend with graduation, congrats, it's a great honor. So, Ian?
No, I'm good.
Sheree?
We had the question come in about the referendum for our open session tonight, our listening session, and I just want to encourage, if somebody's interested in spearheading a table at Pea Soup Days, we've got that coming before our next work session. So I think that would be a great opportunity for the community to be able to ask questions, get some information out there, walk the parade handing out something. We don't have a newspaper, we don't have a lot of means of communication with some of that stuff, so it might be a great opportunity to voice that, and then also, yes, best of luck to the graduates. Very exciting time of the year. Lots of changes, so congratulations.
To just piggyback off of Pea Soup Days, what Sheree said, has the school district ever done anything as a whole before, as far as parade, events?
Oh, yeah.
Did we walk in it?
They've had teachers that put things together in a parade there for several years, almost every year.
Okay,
We walked in it.
Okay.
No, it was, I think the year before.
well, okay.
We even drove a bus in the parade one year.
Okay, maybe I can reach out to you about more information, a way that we can get out in the community in a positive way. Matt, do you have anything for once around the table?
I just want to piggyback off Bruce and what Lacey said about community involvement next week. It's super important, and any feedback that can be offered to us and involvement, I really encourage everybody to be there. It's a big decision for all of us to make next week, and I think that we need that involvement, so I appreciate both of you bringing that up.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. Well, is there a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Do I need to do discussion on that too? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. This meeting is adjourned at
7:20.
7:20.
Good job.
I just wanna say sorry before we go off about the camera. It would not turn back around, so,
Oh.
sorry about that.